Welcome into another edition of Prospects for the Pride, a subset of Lions Central Radio. This is where we bring in the experts to break down draft prospects leading into the NFL draft here. It's sneaking up on us, folks. I think this is the fifth edition of Prospects for the Pride that we've put together. And our very own Brandon Alisoglu is the guest this time around. I put one together just a couple days ago, and now Brandon's our next Prospects for the Pride. Brandon, Kenny Bell, wide receiver from Nebraska. Most of our listeners should have at least seen him once or twice because of the hair that we see coming out of that helmet. But for those less familiar, how did Kenny Bell appear on your radar?
Well, you hit the nail right on the head. It was the hair. He was memorable. He had that huge afro, and you wondered how the heck did he get that in his helmet? But he was known for the circus catch throughout his career. It always seemed like he was pulling down some weird, crazy catch, or he was, due to his speed, making big time plays a lot. But the game that really sticks out, like, okay, this guy's going to be a problem. As we talked about in the Trey Waynes video, I went to Michigan State, and so I watched a fair amount of their games, obviously, if not all of them. And last year, 2013, he had 7 catches for 81 yards and a touchdown against Michigan State, against that defense, that secondary that it was so strong that year, and it ended up having probably 2 first-round picks at quarterback. So the kid really made a name for himself, I think, against Michigan State that year.
Yeah, you're talking about Darqueze Dennard and Trey Waynes is likely to be a first-round pick this year. Looking at Kenny Bell's strengths, what are the biggest ones that he has moving forward looking at the NFL?
Well, it's his slipperiness, his speed. He ran a 4.2, which I almost feel like undersells how quick he really is. He's got that jitterbug, uh, Golden Tate light. I'm not saying he's Golden Tate type quality to where he can kind of scoot around quickly and cause problems with his change of direction and this acceleration. He's a hands catcher. He doesn't try to bring the ball into his body. He doesn't try to just kind of catch it with his chest. And he also has very good timing when it comes to catching the ball. He's able to go up to it and get it at its highest point. He will fight for the ball. And again, I'm not calling him Golden Tate, but I'm saying he has a lot of those types of traits, just obviously not to the same level. He can fight against bigger guys to get the ball, and when he gets it, especially if you put it in a place where he can make a move or two, he can really rack up some yards after the catch.
Now, I haven't studied Kenny Bell at all. I've just seen him in passing, just watched some Nebraska games. But when I look at him, man, he looks fragile out there. He looks like a twig. And now, when you get down to his biggest weaknesses, does he have an injury history at all? And are teams worried looking forward at the next level that he's too small to find long-term success?
Well, I think his size is definitely a concern. As far as injuries, there's nothing really that sticks out. He did play all the games 2013, like we were just talking about. But his slight frame, I mean, he's 6'1", he's 197 pounds. He looks like a small quarterback. He's not going to be a physical specimen that overpowers anybody, which is funny because he's actually a very good and willing blocker. He's aggressive. He engages guys. He gets his hands in there, and he will try to drive, or even in the small spaces, he will throw that body around. But he doesn't have an injury history despite the lanky, kind of very slight build that he has. But that is definitely his biggest weakness moving forward. Another problem is it's some blaming on his hand size, which I don't know how much I always put in stock. You're talking tenths of an inch. He has 9 1/4 inch hands. Teddy Bridgewater, I think, got killed for 9 5/8, and well, he seems to be doing just fine. But he doesn't always catch the ball on the first pass. He'll kind of knock the ball around a bit sometimes, and that led to some of those circus catches. But in the NFL, it's liable to get you killed. And that just kind of all blends together with that slight frame. So those are your major concerns, I'd say. He's not going to outjump, despite his feistiness and despite his ability to kind of get up there and go after the ball. I don't think he's going to, overpower, say, Richard Sherman for the Rock.
Right. And now you mentioned he's in the vein of a Golden Tate light, a Golden Tate-esque. The Lions already have a Golden Tate. So where does Kenny Bell come in, and how does he fit with the Detroit Lions?
Well, one of the things that he could do right away is that he can return. I
Hmm.
mean, he's not going to take Golden Tate's job. He might take Ryan Broyles' job as the backup to Golden Tate that never plays. But the key thing that I think he can do right away is that he can come in, he can play a lot of interior. He can play, out of the slot. He can also line up on the outside and be shifty enough. He's gonna have problems getting off the line against a lot of jams. So that's why they probably be best to put him in motion if they do if they're going against a press man scheme with the big corner. But this is a guy who he led the team in receptions and kick return yards in 2013. I mean, that's kind of ridiculous when you put it
Hmm.
all together. And he can do the things that Jeremy Ross does without it being Jeremy Ross. Let's put it that way.
Right.
He has the vision, he has the speed, and maybe Jeremy Ross's time is over. At a minimum, he can come in and compete for that particular job.
Yeah. So if he were here, you definitely think he could have an immediate impact with Detroit.
Yeah, it'd be on special teams. I don't know where he cracks into that into the receiving hierarchy. He's obviously not going to push Golden Tate. We don't know what Detroit has in T.J. Jones yet, and maybe Corey Fuller takes another step forward, but he'll be in the mix, I think, for that third or what will probably be actually the fourth spot, just because you have to presume that Detroit's going to try to integrate their first round pick from last year a little bit more in the passing game this year, but we'll see. Uh,
Well, he's
we
such a
don't need to go
physical
down that
talent. You
track
have
right
to.
now.
Sure.
Three
Uh,
videos I managed to work in Eric Ebron. That's almost impressive.
you're the one that keeps bringing him up. I'm trying to avoid
I
him
know.
like the plague. So, for someone that would come in as probably an immediate special teamer and have to work his way up that receiver hierarchy, as you said, where do you see Kenny Bell going in the draft?
Well, a lot of mocks have him going astonishingly late. Like Matt Miller has him sixth. I know I've mocked him to Detroit in the sixth before. I think that's why Detroit is going to have a chance at him. Uh, yeah, obviously Detroit doesn't have the fourth and the fifth round picks because of the Halati trade, which nobody's going to argue with. At least I hope. Um, but there's a good chance that they can get him in that sixth round. They may have to move around or move up a few spots to grab him. I don't know if he's particularly worth it just because he's not a huge need for this team right now. But the point is that he is a good prospect for this team. He has the speed. At his pro day, he ran a 4.38, 4.36, somewhere in that range. So the guy is a true blazer, and he could add an element that the team doesn't have, especially in the return game.
And would someone else potentially need to go to make room for a Kenny Bell?
I think if Kenny Bell makes the 53-man roster in September, Jeremy Ross is probably
Yeah.
a street free agent.
And with that, that's our look at Kenny Bell, wide receiver from Nebraska. Stay tuned for more prospects for the Pride. We've got plenty of experts coming in, breaking down their favorite guys uh, in advance of the draft coming up here really soon. For Brandon Alisoglu, I am Nick Castora. Thanks for listening to this edition of Prospects for the Pride.